Most people will spend more time planning their vacation than planning their transformation, and then wonder why their life feels like a prison sentence they never asked to serve. They research hotels for hours but won't spend 5 minutes researching their own potential. They save money for trips that last 7 days but refuse to invest in changes that could last 70 years. They take photos of sunsets in foreign countries but can't even envision a different sunrise in their own life. While they're busy documenting someone else's beautiful scenery, their own dreams are dying in the dark corners of someday and maybe later. The truth is, you don't need to go anywhere to transform everything. You don't need a passport to access your potential. You don't need to travel thousands of miles to discover who you are meant to be. The greatest journey you will ever take is the 7-day trip from who you are to who you could become. There is a moment in every butterfly's life when it first sees its reflection and doesn't recognize what it's looking at. Yesterday it crawled on its belly, limited to the dirt and leaves beneath it. Today it soars above the trees, painted in colors it never knew existed. The creature staring back from the water's surface seems like a stranger, yet it is the truest version of what it was always meant to be. Right now, as you sit here, you are living as a caterpillar in a world designed for butterflies. You have accepted limitations that were never meant to be permanent. You have made peace with a version of yourself that is nothing more than a rough draft of your true potential. But what if I told you that in just 7 days, 1 week, you could become so transformed that the people who know you best would have to look twice to recognize you? You see, most people believe that change is a slow process. They think transformation takes months, years, maybe even decades. They use time as an excuse to remain the same. They say things like, I'm working on myself, or change takes time, or I'm not ready yet. These are the words of people who have accepted the lie that they must remain prisoners of their past selves. But transformation is not about time, it's about decision. The butterfly doesn't gradually grow wings over several seasons. One day it makes the decision to enter the cocoon, and when it emerges, everything has changed. The caterpillar that went in is gone forever. What comes out is a completely different creature with a completely different destiny. The same power that transforms the caterpillar lives inside you right now. You were not designed to crawl through life settling for whatever crumbs fall from other people's tables. You were designed to fly, to soar, to live at altitudes that most people never even dream about. But first, you must be willing to let go of who you think you are. Most people are terrified of change because they have built their identity around their limitations. They know themselves as the person who struggles with money, the person who can't maintain relationships, the person who always starts but never finishes. They wear these labels like badges of honor, as if their problems make them special. They have become so comfortable in their cocoon of mediocrity that they mistake it for home. But your current circumstances are not your identity. Your past failures are not your future. Your present limitations are not your permanent address. You are not stuck where you are because that's where you belong. You are stuck where you are because that's where you have chosen to remain. The moment you truly understand this, everything changes. When you realize that the prison you're living in has no locks on the doors, you stop being a prisoner and become a person with choices. When you understand that the walls around your life are made of paper, not concrete, you stop banging your head against them and start walking through them. I have watched thousands of people transform their entire existence in a matter of days. I have seen individuals go from bankruptcy to breakthrough, from depression to destiny, from ordinary to extraordinary, all because they made one crucial decision. They decided to stop being who they were and start becoming who they were meant to be. But here's what most people don't understand about transformation. It requires the death of your old self. You cannot become new while still holding on to the old. You cannot step into your future while dragging your past behind you. The butterfly cannot emerge while the caterpillar refuses to let go. This is why most people never change. They want the benefits of transformation without the cost of transformation. They want to fly while still crawling. They want to soar while still clinging to the ground. They want to become unrecognizable while still trying to remain the same. But transformation doesn't work that way. To become unrecognizable, you must first become unfamiliar to yourself. You must be willing to look in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back at you. You must be willing to become a stranger to your old habits, your old thoughts, your old ways of being. The person you are today is not the person you were meant to be. The life you are living today is not the life you were designed to live. The future you are heading toward today is not the future that is waiting for you. But all of this can change in 7 days if you are willing to make the decision that changes everything. 7 days from now, you can be living in a different reality. 7 days from now, you can be operating from a different identity. 7 days from now, you can be so transformed that the person you are today will seem like a distant memory. But it all starts with one decision, the decision to stop accepting who you are and start becoming who you were meant to be. The question is not whether you can change, the question is whether you will change. The power is already inside you. The potential is already there. The butterfly is already waiting to emerge. All that's missing is your decision to let it happen. Are you ready to become unrecognizable? Are you ready to stop crawling and start flying? Are you ready to look in the mirror 7 days from now and meet the person you were always meant to be? Because if you are, then everything changes starting right now. Now, let me tell you about a woman named Isabella. 3 years ago, she was living what she thought was a comfortable life. She had a job she tolerated, relationships she had settled for, and dreams she had abandoned. Then one Tuesday morning, everything she owned went up in flames. Her apartment building caught fire, and in less than 4 hours, every material possession she had accumulated over 30 years was reduced to ash. As Isabella stood on the sidewalk watching the smoke rise from what used to be her life, something extraordinary happened. Instead of feeling devastated, she felt liberated. For the first time in decades, she had no choice but to start over. No old furniture to remind her of past failures. No photo albums to keep her trapped in yesterday's story. No clothes that made her feel like the person she no longer wanted to be. Most people would have spent months mourning what they lost. Isabella spent 1 week building what she never knew she wanted. She didn't try to recreate her old life. She created a completely new one. She moved to a different city, started a business she had only dreamed about, and surrounded herself with people who challenged her to grow instead of enabling her to stay small. Within 7 days, Isabella had become unrecognizable, not because she changed her appearance, but because she changed her identity. The fire didn't destroy her life, it revealed her life. The woman who emerged from those ashes was not a victim of circumstances. She was a creator of possibilities. But here's what most people miss about Isabella's story. She didn't wait for a fire to transform her life. The fire simply forced her to do what she should have done years earlier, let go of everything that was keeping her from becoming who she was meant to be. You don't need to wait for life to force you to change. You can choose to burn down your old identity today. Not your possessions, not your relationships, but the mental prison you have built around yourself, the limiting beliefs, the negative self-talk, the excuses, the fears. All of it needs to go up in flames. This is the part of transformation that most people refuse to face. They want to add new things to their life without removing the old things. They want to think new thoughts without stopping the old thoughts. They want to develop new habits without breaking the old habits. But transformation doesn't work like addition. It works like substitution. You cannot become new while holding on to old. You cannot step into your future while dragging your past behind you. You cannot emerge as a butterfly while still thinking like a caterpillar. Something must die for something new to be born. The death I'm talking about is not physical death. It's identity death. It's the death of the person you thought you were, so that the person you're meant to be can emerge. It's the death of your limitations so that your possibilities can live. It's the death of your excuses so that your potential can breathe. This death is not comfortable. When you start changing, everything in your old life will resist. Your mind will tell you that you're making a mistake. Your emotions will convince you that you're moving too fast. Your friends will remind you of who you used to be. Your family will try to pull you back to who they're comfortable with you being. This resistance is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something right. When a caterpillar enters the cocoon, its entire body begins to dissolve. For days, it exists in a state between what it was and what it's becoming. This is the most vulnerable time in its entire life cycle, but it's also the most important. Without this dissolution, there can be no transformation. Right now, you might be feeling that same dissolution. You might be questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself. You might be feeling lost, confused, uncertain about who you're becoming. This is not a crisis. This is chrysalis. This is the space between your old identity and your new one. Most people panic when they reach this point. They run back to what's familiar, even if what's familiar is killing them slowly. They choose the prison they know over the freedom they don't understand. They abort their transformation because they're afraid of who they might become. But the people who push through this discomfort, who embrace the uncertainty, who trust the process even when they can't see the outcome, these are the people who emerge completely transformed. These are the people who become unrecognizable, not just to others, but to themselves. The old you served its purpose. It got you to this moment. It taught you what you don't want. It showed you what doesn't work. It revealed the limitations you need to break and the patterns you need to change. But its job is done now. It's time to let it go. When you truly let go of your old identity, something magical happens. The energy you were using to maintain who you used to be becomes available to create who you're becoming. The mental space you were using to justify your limitations becomes available to design your possibilities. The emotional capacity you were using to defend your past becomes available to build your future. This is why transformation can happen so quickly. It's not that you're learning something completely new. You're finally allowing yourself to become who you already are. Underneath all the layers of conditioning, fear, and false identity, Isabella didn't become a different person in that week after the fire. She became herself for the first time in 30 years. The fire didn't give her new abilities. It removed everything that was hiding her abilities. The fire didn't create her courage. It burned away everything that was covering her courage. The same thing can happen for you, but you don't need to wait for external circumstances to force your hand. You can choose to let go. You can choose to release. You can choose to allow the old you to die so the new you can be born. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you can wake up as a different person, not because you changed overnight, but because you decided overnight. The moment you truly decide to become unrecognizable, the process of becoming unrecognizable begins. But first, you must be willing to say goodbye to who you've been. You must be willing to close the door on your old story so you can open the door to your new one.
You must be willing to let the old you die so the new you can live.
There was an architect named Thomas who had spent 15 years designing buildings for other people's dreams while his own blueprints gathered dust in his drawer. He was successful by every external measure. Good salary, nice house, respected in his field, but inside he felt like he was slowly dying. Every morning he woke up feeling like he was living someone else's life. Then one Friday afternoon, his doctor called with test results that changed everything. The stress of living an inauthentic life had begun to manifest in his body. His blood pressure was dangerously high. His sleep was disrupted and his energy was completely depleted. The doctor's words hit him like a lightning bolt. Thomas, if you don't make some serious changes, you're looking at a heart attack within the year. That weekend, Thomas did something he had never done before. He cleared everything off his drafting table and began designing the most important blueprint of his life, the blueprint for his own transformation. He didn't spend months planning. He didn't create elaborate strategies. He simply asked himself one question. If I had to become completely unrecognizable in 1 week, what would I need to change? The answer came to him immediately: everything. By Monday morning, Thomas had resigned from his job. By Tuesday, he had cleaned out his office and moved his drafting table to the spare bedroom in his house. By Wednesday, he had called 3 potential clients who had been asking him to design their dream homes. By Thursday, he had set up his own architectural firm. By Friday, he was working on projects that made him jump out of bed with excitement. By Sunday, he was a different person living a different life. 7 days. That's all it took for Thomas to transform from someone living someone else's dream into someone living his own. But it didn't happen by accident. It happened because he understood something that most people never learn. Transformation is not about gradual change. It's about architectural redesign. When an architect wants to transform a building, they don't just paint the walls and hope for the best. They go back to the foundation. They examine the structure. They look at the blueprint and determine what needs to be torn down and what needs to be built up. They approach the project systematically, strategically, and with absolute clarity about the end result. Your life is no different. If you want to become unrecognizable, you cannot just make surface-level adjustments. You must go back to the foundation and redesign the entire structure of your existence. You must become the architect of your own transformation. The foundation of every human being is their thought life. Your thoughts are the blueprints from which your entire reality is constructed. Every action you take, every decision you make, every result you create, all of it begins with a thought. If you want to change your life, you must first change your thoughts. But most people try to change their thoughts while still living in environments that reinforce their old thinking patterns. They try to think positively while surrounded by negative people. They try to think abundantly while living in spaces that scream scarcity. They try to think like successful people while maintaining the lifestyle of unsuccessful people. This is like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation designed for a house. The structure cannot support what you're trying to create. If you want different results, you need different architecture. If you want to become unrecognizable, you need to redesign not just your thoughts, but the entire environment that shapes your thoughts. Thomas understood this. He didn't just change his career, he changed his entire architectural environment. He changed where he worked, how he worked, and who he worked with. He changed his morning routine, his evening routine, and everything in between. He changed his physical space, his mental space, and his emotional space. He redesigned every element of his life to support the person he was becoming. Your environment is either supporting your transformation or sabotaging it. The books on your shelf are either feeding your growth or starving it. The people in your circle are either pushing you forward or holding you back. The spaces you occupy are either inspiring you to rise or enabling you to remain small. Look around your living space right now. What does it say about who you are? Does it reflect the person you're becoming or the person you're trying to leave behind? Does it inspire you to grow or remind you to stay comfortable? Does it support your dreams or reinforce your limitations? Everything in your environment is sending you a message about who you are and what's possible for you. If you want to become unrecognizable, you must surround yourself with messages that support your new identity. You must create an environment that makes it easier to be the person you're becoming than to remain the person you've been. This means changing your physical space. Remove everything that represents your old identity and replace it with things that represent your new one. Change the way your space looks, feels, and functions. Make it impossible to walk into your environment and feel like your old self. But physical space is just the beginning. You must also redesign your mental space. The conversations you have with yourself, the stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you hold about yourself, all of this must be reconstructed from the ground up. Most people have been having the same conversations with themselves for years. They wake up and immediately begin rehearsing their problems, reviewing their failures, and reinforcing their limitations. They spend more time thinking about what they don't want than thinking about what they do want. They use their mental energy to maintain their problems instead of creating their solutions. If you want to become unrecognizable, you must change the conversation. You must stop rehearsing your past and start designing your future. You must stop focusing on your problems and start focusing on your possibilities.
You must stop thinking like the person you've been and start thinking like the person you're becoming. This requires discipline, not the discipline of deprivation, but the discipline of design. Every thought you think is either building your new identity or reinforcing your old one. Every word you speak is either moving you toward your transformation or keeping you trapped in your current reality. Thomas learned to catch himself every time he started thinking like his old self. When he found himself worrying about security, he immediately redirected his thoughts to abundance. When he found himself doubting his abilities, he immediately focused on his possibilities. When he found himself missing his old life, he immediately reconnected with his vision for his new one. Within days, his entire mental architecture had changed. He was no longer the person who settled for security at the expense of satisfaction. He was the person who chose fulfillment over fear, possibility over predictability, dreams over dollars. But the most important change Thomas made was in his associations. He stopped spending time with people who reminded him of who he used to be and started connecting with people who inspired him to become who he was meant to be. He stopped having conversations about problems and started having conversations about possibilities. He stopped surrounding himself with people who were comfortable with mediocrity and started surrounding himself with people who were committed to excellence. Your associations determine your destination. The people you spend time with are either elevating your thinking or contaminating it. They are either supporting your transformation or sabotaging it. They are either believing in your potential or reminding you of your limitations. If you want to become unrecognizable, you must be willing to become unrecognizable to some people. You must be willing to outgrow relationships that no longer serve your growth. You must be willing to distance yourself from people who are invested in keeping you small. This is not about being mean or cruel. This is about being intentional about your growth. You cannot become extraordinary while surrounding yourself with people who are committed to being ordinary. You cannot rise to new levels while maintaining relationships that keep you at old levels. The blueprint for transformation is simple but not easy. Change your thoughts, change your environment, change your associations. Redesign the architecture of your entire existence to support the person you're becoming instead of maintaining the person you've been. Thomas is now living proof that 1 week can change everything, but it only works if you're willing to redesign everything. Are you ready to become the architect of your own transformation?
Victoria was 26 years old when she found herself sitting on her apartment floor with $17 to her name and an eviction notice in her hand. 3 months earlier, she had been laid off from a marketing job. 2 months earlier, her savings had run out. 1 month earlier, she had started selling her furniture just to buy groceries. Now she was staring at rock bottom, wondering how her life had spiraled so far out of control. But instead of breaking down, Victoria did something that would change the trajectory of her entire existence. She stood up, walked to a bathroom mirror, and made a declaration that shook the walls of her reality. 1 week from today, I will not recognize the person I'm looking at right now. She didn't have a plan. She didn't have resources. She didn't have connections. What she had was something far more powerful. She had absolute clarity about her destination and complete commitment to reaching it at maximum speed. Victoria understood what most people never learn. Transformation is not about taking baby steps. It's about building unstoppable momentum. It's not about making gradual improvements. It's about creating exponential acceleration. When you truly commit to becoming unrecognizable, the universe begins to move at the speed of your decision. That Monday morning, Victoria did something she had never done before. Instead of looking for another job, she created one. She took the $17, bought a notebook and some pens, and started knocking on doors in her neighborhood, not to ask for work, but to offer solutions. She offered to help local businesses with their marketing for free, just to prove what she could do. By Tuesday, she had 3 clients who were so impressed with her ideas that they agreed to pay her immediately for a month's worth of work. By Wednesday, she had moved out of her apartment and into a shared workspace where she could network with other entrepreneurs. By Thursday, she had partnered with a web designer and a copywriter to offer complete marketing packages. By Friday, she had launched her own marketing agency with 5 paying clients. By Sunday, she was booking calls with potential clients 3 weeks out, 7 days, from broke to business owner, from victim to victor, from desperate to decisive. But Victoria's transformation wasn't magic, it was momentum. She understood that small actions, when focused and accelerated, create massive results. She didn't try to solve every problem at once. She identified the one thing that would create the biggest impact and put all her energy behind it. This is the first principle of acceleration. Focus creates force. When you spread your energy across multiple priorities, you dilute your power. When you concentrate your energy on one objective, you multiply your impact. Victoria didn't try to fix her entire life at once. She focused on one thing, generating income. Everything else became secondary. The second principle of acceleration is that energy follows intention. The moment Victoria made her declaration in the mirror, every cell in her body aligned with that decision. Her mind started generating ideas she had never considered. Her emotions started supporting actions she had previously avoided. Her body started moving with a purpose it had never felt before. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy fighting against themselves. They want to change, but they're afraid to change. They want to grow, but they're comfortable where they are. They want to succeed, but they're terrified of failure. This internal conflict creates resistance that slows down every process in their life. But when you make a decision with absolute certainty, all resistance disappears. Your entire being becomes focused on one outcome. Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your physical body all start working together instead of against each other. This alignment creates acceleration that most people never experience. The third principle of acceleration is that speed creates confidence. The faster Victoria moved, the more confident she became. The more confident she became, the faster she moved. This created an upward spiral that compounded her results exponentially. Most people think they need confidence to take action. Victoria proved that taking action creates confidence. She didn't feel confident when she knocked on that first door. She felt terrified, but she knocked anyway. After the first door, the second door was easier. After the second door, the third door was natural. By the 10th door, she felt unstoppable. When you move quickly toward your goals, you don't give fear time to catch up with you. When you take action before you feel ready, you discover that you were more ready than you thought. When you accelerate past your comfort zone, you realize that your comfort zone was just a speed limit you had imposed on yourself. Victoria's story proves that 1 week is enough time to completely transform your reality. If you're willing to accelerate past your limitations, focus your energy like a laser, and move at the speed of your commitment. The question is not whether you can become unrecognizable in 7 days. The question is whether you're willing to move fast enough to make it happen.
7 days ago, that butterfly was still crawling on its belly, convinced that the ground was its permanent address. Today, it soars above the treetops, painted in colors that didn't exist in its previous reality. When it looks down at the leaf where it used to live, it cannot comprehend how it ever believed that such a small space could contain its entire existence. The transformation is complete. The emergence is final. The old creature is gone forever. And what has taken its place is so magnificent, so powerful, so utterly different that even nature itself stops to witness its beauty. This is what happens when you complete your 7-day transformation. You don't just change, you emerge. You don't just improve, you transcend. You don't just become better, you become unrecognizable. But here's what most people don't understand about emergence. It's not the end of the process, it's the beginning of your new life. The butterfly doesn't emerge from the cocoon and then stop growing. It emerges and begins to live at a level that was impossible before its transformation. The same is true for you. When you become unrecognizable, you don't just arrive at a destination, you discover that you have been equipped for a journey you never knew was possible. You don't just solve your old problems, you realize you now have the capacity to handle challenges you never could have faced before. Isabella, who rose from the ashes of her old life, didn't just rebuild what she had lost. She built something so extraordinary that her old life looked like poverty compared to her new reality. Thomas, who redesigned his entire existence, didn't just change his career, he changed his entire relationship with possibility itself. Victoria, who accelerated from broke to breakthrough, didn't just solve her financial problems, she discovered that she had the power to create wealth at will. But their stories didn't end with their 7-day transformations. Their stories began with their 7-day transformations. They didn't just become new people, they became people with the capacity to continuously become newer. This is the secret that most people miss about transformation. It's not about reaching a final destination, it's about developing the ability to transform at will. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming adaptable. It's not about solving all your problems once and for all. It's about developing the capacity to solve any problem that comes your way. When you truly become unrecognizable, you don't just change your circumstances, you change your relationship with change itself. You stop being someone who is afraid of the unknown and become someone who is excited by it. You stop being someone who resists growth and become someone who seeks it. You stop being someone who settles for what is and become someone who creates what could be. But this new identity must be protected. Just as the butterfly must learn to use its wings, you must learn to live in your new reality. The habits that created your transformation must become the habits that sustain your transformation. The mindset that changed your life must become the mindset that maintains your new life. Most people transform and then immediately begin drifting back toward their old identity. They experience the high of change and then slowly return to the comfort of familiarity. They taste freedom and then voluntarily return to prison. They become unrecognizable and then gradually become recognizable again. This happens because they treat their transformation like an event instead of a lifestyle. They think that once they change, they can stop doing the things that created the change. They believe that once they become new, they can return to their old patterns without consequences. But transformation is not an event, it's a way of being. The person you become is not who you are, it's who you choose to be every single day. The life you create is not what you have, it's what you continue to build. The identity you develop is not what you become, it's what you decide to remain. This means that every morning when you wake up, you must wake up as the new you. Every decision you make must be made by the new you. Every conversation you have must be had by the new you.
Every challenge you face must be faced by the new you. You cannot live your new life with your old habits. You cannot maintain your new identity with your old mindset. You cannot sustain your new results with your old actions. The person you became in 7 days must continue becoming every day for the rest of your life.
But here's the beautiful thing about living as your transformed self. It becomes easier, not harder. The butterfly doesn't struggle to fly. Flying becomes its natural state. The habits that once required discipline become automatic. The thoughts that once took effort become instinctive. The actions that once felt foreign become natural. When you truly become unrecognizable, staying unrecognizable becomes effortless. When you truly transform, maintaining your transformation becomes your new normal. When you truly change, changing becomes your new identity. And as you live in this new reality, something extraordinary happens. Your transformation begins to transform others. Your growth begins to inspire growth. Your breakthrough begins to create breakthroughs. The ripple effect of your change begins to change everything and everyone around you. People will look at you and ask, what happened to you? They will want to know your secret. They will want to understand how someone can change so dramatically in such a short time. And when they ask, you will have the most powerful answer in the world. I decided to become unrecognizable, and I gave myself 7 days to make it happen. The butterfly never returns to crawling. Once it discovers it can fly, flying becomes its only option. Once you discover you can transform, transformation becomes your way of life. Once you become unrecognizable, recognition becomes impossible because you never stop becoming. 7 days, that's all it takes. The only question remaining is this: are you ready to emerge? Are you ready to spread your wings? Are you ready to become so unrecognizable that 7 days from now, when you look in the mirror, you'll meet a stranger who has been waiting your entire life to finally be free? The cocoon is optional. The transformation is available. The emergence is inevitable. The choice is yours. But let me tell you what will happen when you make this choice. Let me paint a picture of your life. 7 days from today, if you decide right now to become unrecognizable, 7 days from now, you will wake up in the morning, and for a moment, you won't recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror. The eyes will be the same, but the light behind them will be different. The face will be familiar, but the confidence radiating from it will be foreign. You will look at yourself and think, who is this person, and where have they been hiding my entire life? Your family will notice it first. They will see you walking differently, talking differently, carrying yourself with a presence they have never witnessed before. They will ask you what has changed, and you will smile because you know that everything has changed. But more importantly, you have changed everything. Your friends will be confused. The person they thought they knew will seem like a distant memory. The conversations you used to have will no longer interest you. The activities you used to enjoy will no longer satisfy you. The dreams you used to talk about will now be the reality you are living. Some of them will be inspired by your transformation. Others will be threatened by it. Both reactions will confirm that your transformation is real. Your colleagues will stop you in the hallway and ask what happened to you over the weekend. They will notice that you speak with authority you never had before. They will see that you move with purpose you never displayed before. They will witness you making decisions with confidence you never possessed before. Some will want to know your secret. Others will wonder if you are the same person they have been working with all this time. But the most profound change will not be how others see you. It will be how you see yourself. You will no longer be someone who hopes things will get better. You will be someone who makes things better. You will no longer be someone who waits for opportunities. You will be someone who creates opportunities. You will no longer be someone who adapts to circumstances. You will be someone who changes circumstances. Your relationship with problems will be completely different. Where you once saw obstacles, you will now see stepping stones. Where you once felt overwhelmed, you will now feel energized. Where you once felt stuck, you will now feel unstoppable. Problems will not disappear from your life, but your capacity to solve them will expand beyond anything you thought possible. Your relationship with time will be transformed. You will stop saying, I don't have time, and start saying, I will make time. You will stop rushing through your days and start designing your days. You will stop feeling like time is working against you and start making time work for you. Your relationship with money will shift completely. You will stop thinking about what you cannot afford and start thinking about what you can create. You will stop seeing money as something that controls you and start seeing it as something you control. You will stop worrying about bills and start planning investments. Most importantly, your relationship with your future will be revolutionized. You will stop being afraid of what might happen and start being excited about what you will make happen. You will stop preparing for the worst and start creating the best. You will stop hoping for a better tomorrow and start building a better today. This is not fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is the documented reality of every person who has ever decided to become unrecognizable and followed through on that decision. This can be your reality 7 days from today if you make the choice right now. The transformation is waiting. The emergence is ready. The new you is standing at the door of your consciousness, waiting for you to open it and let them out. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop preparing to get ready to start. Stop planning to begin planning.
The perfect moment is now. The perfect time is today. The perfect opportunity is the one you create by making the decision that changes everything. Become unrecognizable. Your time is now.